Yes. We are back. Throw it in the dirt.
I do.
Episode 8. What a huge week for the pods, man. What a big week for the pods. We get a we get a win, get the W, and the I don't even know what the name of our flight was, if I'm being honest with you.
I think it was the Watson flight.
The Watson flight. We finished first in our flight, get into the shootout, and
Choked pretty hard, man.
because of a technicality, we didn't finish DFL, but we were really close to finishing DFL. If you don't know what DFL is, look it up on Urban Dictionary. Dead freaking last is
I
where
will.
we almost finished.
I will make one comment on that. It is way more intimidating to hit a golf shot with a lot of randoms watching.
Dude, yes. And there are like 50 people out there. This isn't like, a few people. And the second that, I mean, alternate shot is not the most easy format to play. I've always wanted to play it because I think it's fun. Like if you're playing just for kicks, but when you've got, the money on the line, the Calcutta money on the line, it was tight.
Badsy, I will say Tiger Vision is 100% real. And your boy channeled it on that last 9.
You had a good last 9. And I don't know if we could have got it done without our 15th club in the bag, the bitty stick. that pushed us across the finish line.
I still can't feel my feet.
All right, Throw It in the Dirt, episode 8, brought to you by Gentile Apparel, gentileapparel.com. Be sure to check out their collegiate line. If you're in Oxford, go by Landry's on the Square. They have a great lineup. Their fall stuff is out and great collection. They've got some really cool stuff, so be sure to check them out, gentileapparel.com. Jumping right in, because we do have an awesome guest tonight, as we do each week, and he's going to give us a little bit of a draft preview and talk through some guys that have an opportunity to play at the next level potentially. So the rundown or the lineup, we'll go to super regional recap. We'll do a little bit of coach talk, just kind of what's happened in the last week, the elephant in the room, so to speak, so we can just kind of give. I think I'd love to get your thoughts on it. And I have some thoughts on it as well. And then we'll do a draft preview with our guest, and then catch up with our guests. And great guy, played on some great teams, a consummate teammate. I think anybody that played with this guy would 100% say, he was usually top 1 or 2 teammates for most guys. So yeah, jumping right in, super regional recap. The Rebs go play in Arizona against the Wildcats. Game 1, we'll jump right into that. I think, we come out with our hair on fire a little bit. Score 3 runs in the first. Derek Diamond gets the start on the mound. Goes 4. Obviously, you really probably want to get more out of him for that start, just because of where we were in our rotation and what we needed. But we come out in the first and score 3, and then Arizona scores 9 unanswered runs, and we just could not stop the bleeding. And it wasn't. They had a big inning in the 8th, a 3-run inning in the 8th, but it really wasn't it was just a death by 1,000 cuts. They came back in the bottom of the first, scored a run, and then they came back in the bottom of the second, scored a run, and then the 4th, another run, the 5th, 2 runs, and we were getting people on base and not able to, get the big hit or move people over to get the big run or to get some runs to kind of get back in it. I think the thing that stands out as far as offensively, TJ McCants, which was good to see. He struggled as of late. TJ McCants gets 2 hits and 2 RBIs there. And Justin Bench just continues to produce, gets another RBI, but figures, he's one of those guys that just kind of figures out how to get on base and how to, he's probably one of my favorite players on the team just from that standpoint. But the Rebels lose game one behind, again, I don't, there's not one thing that in my mind that it's glaring that you just lose the game 9-3, and you don't pitch it very well in game one.
I was really excited after the top of the first. I think you're right. It didn't feel as bad as it was, if that makes sense. Because I didn't think, we didn't string the hits like we did in game two, but it didn't feel like it didn't feel like we got beat 9-3.
That's right.
But it shows that, the number one hitting club in America did what they had to do. And
right.
We didn't have an answer for it.
And those freshmen that, we talked about, or co-freshmen of the year, they showed out. The Bossier kids showed out. They have, they have a really, really tough lineup. They're most draftable guys batting like 7th or 8th in their lineup. The Holgate kid, he has a great series for them. They can hit 1 to 9, and I think that's where we struggled. So, where we struggled to pitch against them. Moving into game two, obviously after the game one loss, you knew going into game two you were going to get Nikhazy, who's been incredible for us all year. And was, after you saw their lineup, and then what he did to them was nothing short of, I'm not going to say a miracle, but it was pretty special to see that performance. I'll get your take kind of on the pitching side from that standpoint.
Yeah, I feel like, and we've talked about this, I think on a few shows, and it continued to show the difference maker from Doug, not only from a angle perspective, like it's really unique, it's odd. It's not often that guys can throw across their body like he does and have as much success as he does. But from a pitching standpoint, one of the unique things, and one of the reasons I think he has success, is he's not afraid to challenge guys in. And that, I feel like that's a lost art. Non-pitching coaches don't like to throw in, because typically guys leave it arm side and plunk guys, right? And so nothing kills you worse than a free base. And so the lost art of being able to throw in, I think, is one of the things that Doug isn't afraid to do. He isn't afraid to just climb the ladder, stay inside on a 1-2 pitch. And so I would love, and I think that's one of our kind of our Achilles heels. If you notice, every single time you watch a game called and Doug's not pitching, is fastball away, changeup away, slider away. Like, it's not a real big deviation from that. Doug's not afraid to come in, and it's truly a different look. Old school baseball or non-inside baseball says, oh, he's going to pull the ball and it's going to hit it 500. No, he's not. Like, guys that pull the ball typically have longer swings. They take an outside pitch that they're out in front of, and they hammer it away. And the perception is, don't throw him inside because he's going to hit it a million miles, pull side. Not necessarily the case. Just my take.
Well, and I think we have some guys on the team that, like you said, they miss, and they miss over the plate, and they get in trouble. Derek Diamond is a guy that misses over the plate. McDaniel misses over the plate and gets in trouble and gets big hits because they haven't yet mastered that throwing in on right-handed hitters. But Doug goes 5.1 innings, 2 earned runs, 10 strikeouts through 121 pitches. And again, it was just masterful. From the Rebels standpoint, we scored early and often. Jacob Gonzalez with another huge game, 3 hits in his 4 at-bats with 3 RBIs. Chatinier had 2 hits in the game with a big home run. Kevin Graham goes 3 for 5 again, just continues to hit. Elko 2 for 4 in that game. Struggled, I think, overall over the weekend with some strikeouts. He had a lot of strikeouts on Friday, but came back on Saturday and had some hits. Again, 12 runs on 16 hits. We didn't really kick the ball around. Another thing of note, which you texted me during the game, Dunhurst gets 3 hits during the game, which I thought was huge for his confidence, and I hoped would carry over into Sunday or into Monday. But the other, I think, really cool thing and something that you texted me during the game was John Rice Plumlee gets a start, gets 2 hits, and was really active on the base paths. Was active in the outfield early. I think cut some balls off in the gap. Kept some guys kept their momentum, by making some of those type plays, which is what we've talked about on here. And we go back to, having guys that are outfielders. Those little things are the difference in, that one game of maybe going to Omaha or winning a regional or winning a super regional, and not is just the little thing.
Yeah, I mean, I understand why he doesn't start every game because we saw the season, right? But I will say this: he did start. I felt like he deserved the start, and had it been close, he was really crucial in one of the plays, and I think it was after his first hit, where he gets a single, and then and I think he may have beat it out, and then I can't remember if it was Gonzo or who came up after and hit the ball to left center. And this ball, JRP's at first base. The ball doesn't even make it to the wall, and he scores.
Yeah, impressive.
That's
pure like speed. Yeah,
pure speed. And one of the most impressive takeaways from the hitting side of things, when the Rebs back were against the wall, we went in to get it to the next guy. That's kind of the hitting mantra. Get the bat to the next guy. And I felt like that's what we were trying to do. Like we knew it's not going to be the long ball. The swings were shorter. Like if you felt like the balls were just kind of missing and we were kind of hitting it where they weren't, that's because we were. Our only goal was completely selfless baseball. Get the bat to Brandon, get the bat to X, get the bat to Y, and pass the baton, so to speak. And man, our guys can hit when they take controlled swings. Fun to watch.
And I feel like, and it's easy to say and win, when you're winning and you're hitting well. I feel like we get desperate sometimes and we take really bad approaches to the plate and we swing at everything. And in that first game, when you're down 9-3, well, you're not down 9-3 early. You're down at 1.6-3. That's the time when you need to be selective. You need to figure out how to get on base. And like you said, get to the next guy. And how do I do that? Good at bats, taking pitches, working counts. And I feel like we get a little overzealous to try to hit the fastball, and we take some bad swings. We get some bad outs because of that. And I think that was one of our kind of Achilles heels all year, was that once you got down, felt like you were trying to hit a 5-run home run every time you took a swing with nobody on base. It's like, both of those are impossible. So moving to game 3, and the story of game 3s and Ole Miss baseball. It's a tough one, but not to bury the lead, but the Rebels lose. If you're listening to us, and you probably watched the game or know at least what's going on, the Rebels lose 16-3. But I will say, coming into the game, we decided to throw Broadway, and there was some kind of back and forth. Like I saw, on Twitter and different text groups, things like that. There was some scuttlebutt behind that. My thought, and you and I were together when we found out, is I love it, because in my mind, it's your best arm that's available. He's fresh, and if you can beat my best arm, then you're going to beat me. Your bats are going to beat us in this regional if you can beat my best arm. But if my best arm can go out and shut you down for 4 or 5 innings, then we've got a shot. We can piece it together from there. And so that's what we did. And he goes out and gives up one in the first on some just kind of, some that's baseball type plays.
To a good hitting team.
Right, to a good hitting team. And then the Rebels come back and score one in the third to tie it. And then they take the lead in the bottom. They kind of get to Broadway in the bottom of the third with 2 runs, and then we ultimately have to switch pitchers. And then I think we left him in through the fourth, but he gives up 2 in the bottom of the third. I want to say that was a home run. And they go up 3-1. We leave him in. It kind of gets ugly in the bottom of the fourth. They score 7 runs, and it was essentially over at that point for a lot of different reasons. I think mentally, as a team sitting in that dugout, you see your guy give up 6 earned runs. I think the mental part of that says there's 2 ways to look at it. You either go, okay, we're done, or you go, okay, look, we're gonna have to go score 7. We're gonna have to go score. And I think we got a little bit desperate because we started to see some really, really bad at bats the rest of that game. Really just some hacks,
Very panicky.
Yeah, every guy felt like he was trying to hit it out. And so Rebels lose 16-3. Notable performances again. Jacob Gonzalez with another hit, another RBI. TJ McCants with a hit. Dunhurst with another hit. Leatherwood with a hit, and then Elko late in the game gets a double and gets nice standing ovation as he comes off the field and all that. So that was cool to see. But yeah, just again another one of those close but not close enough. Yeah, give me your thoughts on Game 3, and then we can kind of do an over.
Yeah, we kind of watched Broadway throughout the year, and 3 innings was kind of that cap. And hindsight's always 20/20. I feel like the pod influenced that decision because we talked about lowest whip after Nikhazy, which was my boy Broadway, and no surprise they came in with Jack after that, who has the 3rd lowest whip on the team. You can't let it get to that point. I know you can always roll the dice and go back and say, oh yeah, we probably should have pulled him after that last fresh inning or after the 3rd, right before going out to the 4th. Whatever. I 100% agree with what you said. Once you feel that deflation, your guy just got beat up. You just can't. That's kind of the story of the year, right? You can't let your guys get beat up. You got to pull the chain when, earlier the better in my mind. But hindsight's easy.
Yeah. So holistically, you look at the year, right, and you say, okay, if you're a Ole Miss baseball fan and you've looked at the last 21 seasons, you can say, okay, it's just another miss. It's another. This team, Ole Miss teams can't get over the hump. Bianco can't get over the hump. Say whatever it is you want to say about super regionals and not making it or whatever. For me, and trying to be more positive in general in life, for me, I look at it and go, I think this team, because of the injuries and everything, overachieved. I think this team kind of dealt with adversity and continued to come back and continue to figure out ways to win, different ways to win, and essentially used 2 arms and a surprise Jack Doherty to get to Game 3 of the Super Regional. You got a guy playing on one leg that missed 160 at bats or something. You've got
no 9-hole presence.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you got a guy that the right-handed pitcher's throwing has no shot of smelling a ball. There was just, again, like I said, I just feel like there were some holes, and this team overachieved. I do think there's a overarching conversation, and you and I have talked about this of, is the person calling the plays, calling the pitches, all of that, getting tight and panic mode, and then that filters out into the team. and then all of a sudden you're not playing loose anymore, you're not having fun, you're having terrible at bats because of whatever the pressure or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I think again, you've been in those situations in those dugouts in 3 different super regionals, so you can probably tell me a little bit better on that. But I mean, for me, like I said, I feel like we just didn't have enough dudes. We had some dudes, we just didn't have enough dudes.
Sure, but there's always even back when I played, there was always a sense of urgency, and it shows every year. And I think I sent you a shot when we were playing Southern on that Monday night, and it was the first inning, and Bianco's got everybody crowded into a dugout, like giving them a pep talk, and it's the first inning. Like, it's always that sense of urgency. And if I come in and I said, "Hey, B-Hud, look at that, don't look at that pink elephant," you're instantly going to start, "Oh, well, we are supposed to panic right now. We are supposed to play tight. We are supposed to get the home run. We are supposed to get tied. We are supposed to get to a 15-0 lead in 1 inning," right? And it carries over, and it happens more than we would like.
Yeah. So we move into the off season, and LSU, Paul Maneri is retiring. If you know college baseball, I mean, hell of a career at LSU and Notre Dame before that. But I think the elephant in the room for most was, okay, does LSU make another run at Coach B? They came after him in whatever year it was when they hired Smoke. They kind of had conversations, and then they came again whenever they hired Maneri with Coach B, and he kind of turned it down at that point. But then, now you're kind of at another crossroad of, is he ready to move on, or, is there a pressure because of how the season ended, and does Keith make a decision or all that? I mean, I think the latest is nobody knows what's going on. I've tried to talk to different people that I trust and know, and I mean, nobody really knows anything right now. And that's kind of the scuttlebutt is it's a hurry up and wait. And then, we'll probably talk more about it next week, just because we'll know more. But as of right now, I think it's just all really just in a holding pattern, if I'm being honest.
I think so too.
Yeah. So moving on, getting into everybody, everybody's aspirations when you come to Ole Miss, if you decide to sign, is to play in the league, right? I think that's, the goal. That's why you're here. And so what we wanted to do is kind of bring you some insight from a Major League Baseball scout, but he's also going to be our guest tonight. So I'm going to let Wade do a little bit of an intro, and then I'll do a little bit of an intro, and then we'll bring him in.
Yeah. He's a guy I remember playing against in high school. And he's one of those guys that was really good then. And you get to Ole Miss and you see him and you're glad he's on your team, first of all. And he's the silent captain, right? He's the guy that you can always lean on for the big hit. He's the guy that you can always lean on to make the big play. And he's one of those guys, when an error occurs on his watch, you look at and you're like, that wasn't you, right? So I'm super excited for my man Money. I'll let you do the intro.
So this guy is one of the first guys I met. He redshirted actually whenever I was part of the team, but he was, I mean, in practices and fall ball, I mean, you couldn't get him out. He was really, really lanky, really skinny, small guy. I mean, they were trying to put weight on him. I think that was one of the things, probably why he redshirted, and you had Cooper Osteen playing second base, which is where he ultimately ended up playing. But I'll say this, one of the nicest guys, and as we've gone through this process and talked to people, I've talked to multiple players that have said, I said, well, who's your favorite, like one of your favorite teammates when you played at Ole Miss? Just throw out a name, the first thing that comes to your head. And multiple guys said Justin Henry. So our guest tonight is Justin Henry. Justin was, again, just always been a great teammate to guys, but he was always a good human being, a good person. And I'll never forget, he's finished playing here and kind of moved on. And he, out of the blue, we were friends and buds when he was on the team. Out of the blue, I get an invitation to his wedding. And I just remember being so like floored by that he remembered even me, who was a student manager, and made sure. And when I got there, consummate host and all that. He hosted us, and it was awesome. We were part of everything, and so I've always thought that was really cool. So let's bring him in. Hey, he's still connecting with audio. Yeah. There he is. What's up?
It's been a while since I heard that one.
My man.
Justin Henry, welcome to Throw It in the Dirt, bro.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, man. How's it going? What's up in your life these days?
It's good. Just busy time of the year, trying to get ready for another draft, and trying to navigate this new draft date we have. That we're normally are drafting right now, and now it's a month later this year. So just kind of trying to figure out this new schedule we're working with. But all's going well.
So really quick, we're gonna ask you about some guys, but before we do that, can you walk us through just kind of your whatever, July 1 to June 30 for MLB scout? Your scout still with the Tigers. Just walk us through kind of like, here's my downtime, if there is any. There's probably not a ton, but because of summer ball and winter ball and all that, but just walk us through and briefly for time, but kind of walk us through that roadmap, what that looks like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for us, basically, we'll start with the fall, right? When guys go back to school. So, that's kind of our downtime, really, is when guys first go back to school, say, beginning of August up until middle of September. Just not a lot of, kids are going back to school, and colleges have not started their fall programs quite yet. And then, about middle of September is when, 4 years start cranking up their fall schedules, and JUCOs play a fall schedule as well. So we start kind of checking in on guys and just going to watch inter squads. Fall is a good time to meet with players that you're hoping to scout next spring. So that probably runs up until, maybe end of October, beginning of November, depending on certain areas of the country that, down south, maybe they'll play a little longer, and up north it ends a little sooner. So then another kind of downtime, at least travel wise, where you're not, going to watch baseball is November to, middle of January. You're kind of taking care of the paperwork side of things, doing more player meetings, that type of deal. And then once, January gets cranked back up and teams start their spring inter squads. Really, it's still winter, but you're starting your spring inter squads. And from that moment on, it's full go until the draft. It's, you're trying to see as many guys as you can in as many days as possible. And once the draft ends, then you immediately in the summer start on the guys for next year. You start on the high school showcases, high school tournaments, going to Cape Cod, and you do that up until school starts back again. And then it just starts all over again. So that's kind of the yearly process.
So tell me, how much is a tournament like what Ole Miss and Texas, TCU, Texas Tech played in early in the year? How much does that help you from being able to just go to one spot and see all of these top programs?
Yeah, it's huge, especially for So, there's different levels of scouts. You have your area guy who, normally has 3 or 4 states, which I started out as an area scout down in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. I'm now a regional cross checker. So for guys, especially that, have big regions or a national cross checker, those tournaments are huge because you can go in there and see if you have 6, 8 teams there, you can see 8 Friday night arms on one day. So that helps you out to not have to go see those Friday night arms individual Fridays. So those tournaments are huge. If you ever attend one as a fan, you'll see tons of scouts there because it's just it's the kind of thing you can't pass up because it saves you so much time in the future.
I'm assuming conference tournaments are the same way because I saw you. I think I saw you on TV, the SEC tournament in the background at some point. But I'm assuming those type tournaments are the exact same way. You're able to see a ton of guys on good teams.
Absolutely.
Right. All right,
so SEC tournaments traditionally last look you get on guys, and but like you said, you have 12 teams now at the SEC tournament. Same at the ACC tournament. You can get so much done. It's long days. There's no doubt about it. But it's very beneficial.
Justin, with the draft shortening, to me, outsider looking in, not knowing much about the draft and the process, does that put more focus on maybe more experienced players because you don't have a chance to get as many players in your organization? Is that, and again, we'll preface everything that we're going to ask him with, if he punts, we're completely cool with it. We're not trying to put him in a hard spot. So
I'm trying to get anybody fired, not over the dirt.
We're not trying to get a guy fired over the dirt pod. So yeah.
Yeah, no. So it's definitely different. We've there's been a cutback on the number of minor league teams.
Right.
So say, Wade, I'm pretty sure you played like the Appy League. I played in the New York Penn League when I was drafted. Those leagues don't exist anymore. So, you're definitely, you're definitely trying to sign, to first take guys you're going to sign. Whereas maybe in a 40 or 50 round draft, some of those guys at the end, maybe you're taking guys that you're probably not going to sign. But maybe it's just somebody you like as a high school kid that is going to go to school. But now there's going to really be a premium on being sure you get guys you want to sign, but also guys that are either, if you're taking a college guy, you want to be ready to go to low A because there's no short season league to send those guys to, and maybe a little bit of rookie ball down in the Gulf Coast League still, but you're definitely more aware of guys who are going to be able to. You want to send guys out that can succeed, as soon as possible.
So where does the draft stand this year? Is it going to be full rounds, or is it going to be like what was last year? It was only 5 rounds. Are they doing that process again, or is it?
So it was 5 rounds last year, and this year is 20. Okay. So it's another new something we're dealing with. Last year was really unique with the 5 round draft. And so this year, another new situation with the 20 rounds, and it's going to be interesting to see how it goes for sure. We're preparing for it, but as everybody knows, when you're doing something new, you kind of try to get ready for it, but there could be curveballs that are thrown at us. So we're trying to prepare as best we can.
Well, as Wade said, we don't want to get you in trouble with anybody, but we want to just kind of get your take on some guys. Obviously, you've seen all of our players, and I mean, there's a million different publications you can read to where people are shooting video and writing reports and all that. But I think for us, it starts with our 3 kind of top pitchers, Gunnar, Doug, and Taylor. From your view, a guy like Gunnar, who is going to be a projected, whatever pick, and gets hurt, and kind of, now there's a lot of question marks. I mean, what does that look like, from your standpoint? What is your kind of thought as a overarching, you're looking at a guy like that that's injured, like what is that? How does that affect the process?
Right. Well, it definitely does affect it. I think, the interesting thing about the draft is, it only takes one team to think a certain way. And so there's
Right.
30 of us, and there's probably, 30 different opinions you can get on every situation. If you just look at past years, there's been a lot of instances where guys are taking, especially arms that, have had Tommy John surgery or are in need of Tommy John surgery. And, unfortunately, that's a prevalent thing we deal with in the industry. So, each team looks at it differently. But I think that, history will tell you that, you're trying to get talent. Certain years, certain teams may be able to handle certain issues more than others. But, at some point, teams are always trying to get better. And, I know, from my time seeing him pitch at Ole Miss, he's a very good pitcher. And I feel like he's, as long as health, gets back to normal, he's going to have a chance to be a pitcher for a long time.
Does a guy like Doug doing what he does, and you see, like, it's hard to look away from the metrics, right? Like, I mean, in the last 3 or 4 starts, I think he averaged 14 Ks an outing. Do you look at that, and maybe not specifically Doug, but I would love to know from just a pitcher's point of view, when you're looking at a guy, obviously the things that everybody sees, he's got velo. I think you guys, like, give us some inside baseball on what you look for in a guy. Arm slot, how much does that make a difference? Effort, like makeup. Do you like cross body? I would love to get your take on, like, if you were to scout a guy that threw like Doug, who is very unconventional. Mm-hmm. Do you see that guy like in my mind, I go back to, and this is an extreme example, but I go back to like a Dontrelle Willis, where he doesn't look like everybody else, but he just has success. Talk through what you look for, Justin, in guys, like if you were evaluating a pitcher per se.
Right. So really, I've kind of grown as a scout, but especially once I started out as a guy who did not pitch, who was a hitter, I look at pitchers as guys of who I would and who I wouldn't want to face.
Sure.
Kind of start right there. And, deception is a huge thing. I think the number one thing, especially when you're looking for a starting pitcher, is no matter how they're doing it, are they consistent with their delivery, and can they throw strikes? Right? Because as you see in today's game, there's a lot of guys who throw hard. You can pull the 7th reliever off of a college team right now, not even in a big conference, and they throw 95. It's really incredible. And but we're trying to find guys who can throw strikes, who can throw 3 to 4 pitches, 4 strikes. And as you mentioned there, can they get swing and miss? Velo is a great thing, but as we all know, we've seen guys or played with guys that can throw hard and they seem to find the barrel.
Is up on us?
And who can go out there and repeat their delivery and do it week in, week out. And so, it's what as you said with Doug this year, he had a great year, and he went out there and did that pretty much every week. Makeup's the other thing, and that's probably the most important thing. Once the tools are there, is the makeup of guys, and who's really gonna be willing to put in the time and effort and the patience of what it takes to make it to the big leagues and to pitch there for a long time. And that's kind of the toughest part of our job, is to figure out that makeup, because we don't get to spend a ton of time with players. But that's kind of the biggest piece, but it's kind of the last piece too that you're able to figure out.
How much, this is not a question I was prepared to ask until you started talking about it, but just because I have a brother that's a scout in a different league. And you talk about not spending a lot of time with people and getting ready to give them millions of dollars. As we've moved into this now generation of mental health, how much is that side of a guy, you talk about Rick Ankiel, who just lost it and couldn't throw strikes, goes back to the league and ends up being a hitter. But you got a guy that just seems like he mentally is just one of the mentally toughest guys, like a Doug Nikhazy. But then I go back to talk about the 3-pitch guys, the guys that already had the tools, but mentally it feels like they are really, really good, like a Mike Myers, right? Mike Myers pitched here. He was our Saturday guy. He was our number 2 guy, but he threw 3 pitches for strikes, and he was really, really mentally tough. And now, he's set up closer for the Angels in the league, throwing harder than he's ever thrown. He progressed like he was supposed to. But talk about that mental side, that mental makeup, and what you guys are really looking for there. And has that changed since you've been a scout to a certain extent?
Yeah, it's like I said, it's really the toughest thing to figure out. You have to rely a lot on having relationships with coaches at these different programs, and being able to talk to those guys to kind of get the ideas of what kind of workers they are, what kind of teammates they are they, just to find out if they're invested. Because as I was blessed to play for a long time. Wade was able to play. We've had a lot of guys from Ole Miss that have gone on to play, and it's a different ball game when you get into pro ball than it is playing in college. We're wrong a lot. You think guys are ready for it and mentally prepared for it, and they get there and they realize they're not. It's really not something that you don't know what you're getting into until you're there. And so, seeing how guys compete on the field is definitely big, but that mentality of guys off the field and knowing, how they approach their work, and, relying on coaches, strength coaches, talking to maybe teammates that we drafted now that played with that guy as well, that are a little bit older than them, talking to some of those guys. You try to pick anybody's brain you can. And
I remember Scott Barnesby, who's an Indian scout, is still doing it.
Yeah.
Scott used to pull me off to the side all the time as a student manager. He'd be like, what's up with this guy here? And he'd point.
Right.
He'd just want me to give him any bit of information he could get. Every time he came to Ole Miss, he'd hit me up. Hey, what are you doing? Want to go grab a drink? Go grab dinner? And he would ask me a million questions. And it was awesome. I mean, I felt, I was like, I'll tell you anything you want to know. That guy's crazy. I'll draft him.
Yeah. And and you got to find people that, you got to ask a lot of people, because it's hard to always find people that will tell you the truth.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
A
lot
especially
of fluff out there. A lot of fluff.
A lot of high school kids. It's hard because, everybody who has a good high school player, he's the best kid ever. So it's you got to dig a little deeper.
Justin, what do you guys as scouts like? Obviously there's metrics and everybody's measured in today's society as their career goes. What are scouts metriced as, like guys that you drafted and the height that they get to? Like if Joe, one of your area guys, Joe, gets 6 guys and all of them fizzle out in rookie ball, do we need to evaluate Joe's career path, right? Like what do you guys metric on? Obviously big leaguers are great, right? But do you guys have like a key performance indicator, like time to the big leagues or something that that you guys look at and measure from a scout's perspective?
It's a really tough thing because sometimes as scouts, you can have a year where well, first of all, you don't know if you're right for years in advance, right?
Sure.
You don't know for 4 or 5 years if you got guys correct. And so that's a tough thing. But also, just because you get drafted a lot of guys, it's kind of luck of the draw sometimes. I mean, it's not, you might end up hitting on guys really well that are all with other organizations. And so you had a good year that year, but then you look back and maybe you only got one guy. And maybe he was a senior sign in the 20th round. And, if he played the high or double A, that was a good draft because most of those guys don't make it far. So it's one of those things definitely look back on in the past. But really it's you want to make sure your guys are out and working and they're out talking to people, they're going to games, they're building those relationships with people in those areas. That's kind of the most important thing. And then obviously if you don't know what you're looking at out there, then we got problems. But it's a very tough thing to judge. And it's one of those things that we're trying to get better at it, but it's kind of looking back 4 or 5 years ago and seeing where you had guys on your list and how that's working. But as is the game of baseball, there's a lot of failure in the scouting business as well.
Sure. Being a Madison guy, were you a scout when Turnbull came through? Was that one of your guys? You had Alabama at the time. Was he one
No,
of your
it was
guys?
not. No,
Okay.
I was still playing then. So I started scouting in 2015. So Turnbull was already in our organization now. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Awesome. Well, last scouting question, then we're going to move on to more just about Justin that he can get more intimate about and not have to give these overarching generic answers. I'm kidding. A guy like Tim Elko, right? So he's a captain. He's kind of had a unique career. Gets hurt essentially his senior year. He technically has another year because of COVID. I mean, I don't want to get too specific, but I mean, what's the take on that? I mean, you see it all the time where, as a hitter, is the bat good enough to say, okay, I want to go now? Or do you think another year where he can come back and, just continue to play and maybe put up another 340 season with, he ended the year with 16, 17 home runs. I mean, what's your take on Tim Elko, I guess, is my question.
Yeah. So first of all, just as an Ole Miss guy, what an awesome dude. I mean, he, awesome story. I know whenever, felt terrible for the kid whenever the injury happened because he had kind of, fought through some stuff throughout his career there and was finally having an awesome year. And, when I first heard he was going to come back and try to play, it was kind of like, all right, yeah. And then when he did, it was pretty amazing because I mean, in my career, I'd never seen someone do that, and to be able to still push off with his back leg and do that. So really, it's a very unique situation, it's one of those where on the field. I would say that, he strikes you as a guy that, people who put up numbers like that in the conference normally get an opportunity. And it kind of comes down to what the different thing about the baseball draft is it's so much on each individual and what they want to do. In the NFL, if you get drafted, like you had to submit yourself to be in the draft. So there's no going back once you're drafted, right? Same in the NBA. And in baseball, it's not like that, right? You got to have a relationship with the kid and know if what they're going to do beforehand. And right now, I don't really know what he wants to do. but and I don't know the full situation of, you know, surgery and time frame and all that kind of stuff that plays into it. But I know that what he did this year was awesome. And as an Ole Miss fan, I was proud to have that guy on my team, and the team I rooted for. And you know, I think that he's going to have an opportunity to continue playing, whether it's going to Ole Miss or going in, you know, this year or next year or whenever. So
awesome. Well, thanks, man, for the input on that. So I want to move into you know, you can take your shirt off now and talk to us. Take your Tiger shirt off.
Now.
You can relax now. You're not going to say anything that anybody's going to care about from this point on. But yeah, so we gave you an intro. You can, when we post this, you can go back and listen to it. So we won't go back through that again. But
okay.
we're very, you know, fond of money. So talk to us about, you know, your kid from Vicksburg High. I actually played against you in high school. I went to Riverside High School. We played at Bazinski against you guys, a doubleheader. I remember you guys had a couple players go. We had one kid going to Mississippi State. I can't remember his name, a big lefty.
Yeah.
You were going to
Robbie Goodson.
Yep, Robbie Goodson. You had a couple offers, and we knew all of that. And I remember we had like a 3-3 game going into like the 6th inning, and we could not get this kid out. And I was like, man, you know, I was a catcher, and I mean, I was calling. You know, we were changing pitchers, and I was calling it, you know, every pitch that I could to try to get this kid out. And this kid's name was Justin Henry. We could not get you out to save our lives. And so I remember you from high school, but then obviously you came in as a freshman and redshirted your first year. But I came in as, you know, about the same time and met you and started a relationship there. But talk to us about the recruitment process of being a Mississippi kid and being recruited to come to play at, you know, flagship University of Mississippi.
Yeah. So really, I was actually born in Houston, Texas, and my parents are from Louisiana. So I really didn't have any ties in Mississippi, as far as, you know, Ole Miss or State or Southern or whatever. And I really thought that I wanted to go to Alabama at the time. We had a kid 2 years older than me, played at Warren Central, named Taylor Tankersley, who had gone to Alabama and ended up pitching there and was a first rounder out of there. But they were kind of the first school that really started talking to me a good bit and calling me and you know, that type deal. And I actually had a visit set up to go there. And the week of the visit, the coach called me and ended up telling me that they weren't going to bring me in on a visit. Come to find out, they had 2 recruits, infield recruits, there the weekend before, and I guess I was 3rd on the list maybe. And those 2 guys had committed, so they didn't have a spot for me anymore. And so I ended up taking visits to State and Ole Miss. And you know, at Ole Miss that next year, 2 other guys from Vicksburg gone to Ole Miss were Brian Petway and John Morgan Mims. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, obviously I had a relationship with those 2 guys and went up there on my recruiting trip, and I just fell in love with the place. You know, it was, I heard Mr. Brasher on here last week. I was on the same weekend as him, and we hadn't even made it over to the baseball field yet. We beat Florida in football, and we were like ready to go, and we hadn't even seen the baseball field yet. So, you know, Coach McDonald played a huge role in me wanting to come there. You know, I know everybody, you know, I'm sure others have talked about him on here, but just, you know, what an awesome guy he was in the recruiting process, and how good he is at making connections with you. You know, no matter what, you know, he figures out what your likes and dislikes are, and he's able to kind of connect with everybody he talks to. And so, you know, I wanted to come there and wanted to play for him and Coach B. And, you know, it was obviously, I think, the best decision I could have made.
I don't know if you got the, because I was recruited by Mac too, and I don't know if you got the phone call like randomly on a Tuesday at 2:00, and it was like, "Hey Wade, what's up, man?" And I'm like,
What's the
I'm
word? That's what
leaving.
you just always say.
I'm
What's the
yeah,
word?
I'm leaving study hall, coach. Like I'm headed to baseball practice. What's up? He's like, I'm just in the dugout, and I really see you getting us to Omaha next year. I really, you know what I'm saying? Like this random, like.
Well, he
man.
would. So I played football in high school as well. I played quarterback at Vicksburg, and he would call like after, like maybe not Friday night, but like one of the next 2 days, and to just see how, tell me about the football game. Like, what'd y'all do? How many yards you throw for? He wasn't asking about baseball, or he just
Oh
was.
yeah.
And it was, it was, and I know he did it for everybody, but I mean, he was like genuinely interested in how that went,
Sure.
and wanted to hear about it. And it was just, hard not to like somebody that did that,
Yeah, no, for sure. So tell us, I distinctly can hear your voice in the locker room, Mr. Brasher. I can still hear that today. Tell us your favorite, maybe funny story. And I know you're always serious, but I know that you laughed every now and again because I remember it. Tell us your favorite, like, funny story or funny moment related to Ole Miss baseball.
So, first of all, I've enjoyed listening to the previous podcast and kind of listening to everybody else's, and being reminded of some different ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know the one Biddle told last week was a great one of the game where we got beat and John was holding a runner on, and thank God John Hancock doesn't know how to play baseball. But one that I remember, I think this was before you, Wade, but we went out to UCLA in 2006, and it was the worst trip ever. It was literally like, we were all fired up because, we always take the one business trip before conference play. And the previous year we had gone to Houston to play Rice. And, that was fine. I mean, I was from there. It was not, but I'd never been to LA before, so many of us never been to California. And it was like, this is going to be so awesome, and it starts out with us, missing our connector in Dallas. I think we were going from Memphis to Dallas, and somehow, I don't remember if we got delayed out of Memphis, but we missed our connector in Dallas, which, looking back, I'm like, how do they take off with like 35 guys not there on the plane? But, so we missed our flight. So we end up getting out to LA at like 1 a.m. Pacific time. I mean, it was just a brutal day of travel, right? And we finally get to the hotel, and we were scheduled to go visit the Easton factory on Friday morning because we were in Easton school. And so they had some factory out there in LA. And, it was like, we get to the hotel, it's like 8 a.m. Easton factory. It's like, are we serious? Like, everybody's beat. So we go to the Easton factory. Everybody wishes we were still sleeping. And I remember they pass out these sandwiches there, and it's like, like Coughlin's opening up his sandwich, like there's no meat even on this sandwich, like, just it was brutal. And it was really cold there too. It was like some kind of a cold snap. So the weather was not, it was just not what we pictured LA being. And we go out there, and we didn't play very well. We somehow snuck out a game on Saturday, but we lost 2 out of 3. And we're flying back on Monday, and we get to Dallas, and Peyton Farr, we're in the food court in the Dallas airport, and somebody ends up betting him that he couldn't eat 40 nuggets from the McDonald's. And so he ends up crushing all these chicken nuggets, right? And then we get on the plane, and you can see him back there. He's not feeling good. And rumor starts going around that from the way we played this weekend, the moment we get into Oxford, we're having practice. everybody's like, what's going on? Like, we got to have practice, and Peyton's feeling sick that he's going to have to do something when we get back. And I remember pulling up, and Bradley Lum, who was on the team, had not gone on the trip, but he was like there ready to pitch for us to face whenever we got to the field on Monday. And so it was just like the worst trip ever. We thought it was going to be an awesome trip, and it just turned out being not a very good one. But there's
not a business trip.
There's so many stories within that trip, honestly.
So everybody's giving us like a different Bianco story, because I'm sure in the process of playing for 4 years under Coach B, there's a funny or some type of story. Give us your best one that sticks out in your brain, that like if you're hanging out with the guys that people remember, or the one that kind of just pops up that's maybe a funny or a maybe not so funny memory of Coach B.
Yeah. I think so much of what my group in particular, kind of my age guys that I stay in touch with, is just everybody loves to try to do the voice that he has, whenever they talk. And it's, the where's John Hancock, or, just something like that comes to mind of him, his voice, and kind of maybe his facial expression, or when he sticks his hand out to give you the high five, and guys just doing that deal. But I remember my freshman year, as you said, I redshirted, and my kind of thing was, I played all over the field, and I could hit a little bit, and not for power, but I could hit a single with the best of them, and I remember going in the meeting, when he was going to tell me I was redshirting, and it was almost like he said it with surprise, like, you can actually hit a little bit. And it was like, okay, I think that was a compliment. Like, appreciate that. like it was surprising, like, I don't think he thought I was going to be sticking around here, maybe. And so, from the start of that meeting to, all the future years of meetings I had with him, and how they got better as they went along. Yeah. But just, there's to name one, those clubhouse meetings when, games went bad, went poorly. The ones when, another one Biddle brought up, and it was probably partly my fault, was the cold day when we ended up running a ton. Because me and Kozar thought it'd be smart to, we thought we were going to be smart and wear gloves on our throwing hands. It's kind of like when Ben Roethlisberger first started doing that as a quarterback. Yeah. And so we were like, it's like 20 degrees. Let's just wear our gloves. Like, if they can throw a football, we can throw baseballs like that, And I'm going to say it was Kozart that threw it away. I don't really remember if it was me or him, but, and Coach B's killing us, and he's got on all kinds of layers of clothing. But just, stories that at the time were not funny, but now they're just, they're hilarious, and there's so many good ones.
Dude, I remember really quick, and I know because I know Wade has a question, but I remember, the team, whenever we would do fall like inter squads, the team would always be in the third base dugout, and the coaches, the managers, and trainer, whoever would be in the first base dugout. And I remember, like, you had gotten on base, like 7 or 8 times in a row, like over 2 days of inter squads, and Coach B and Coach Matt were having these conversations about red shirt or not red shirt. And I remember Coach B saying like something to that effect of like, I just think he's going to be on that, on that list or whatever. I can't remember the exact terms, but Coach Matt is like walking down, and he's doing his like shoulder shrug and his like head bob, and he's like talking to himself, and he's like, guy's hitting 350, can't get him out, but we're going to register. We're going to put him on. We're going to put him on the list. We're going to register. It's in 350. what are we doing here? He looks at me. He's like, Hud, what are we doing here? I was like, I don't know, coach. Like, I'll never forget that. Though. He's like, we can't get him out. We can't get him out. We can't get him out. How are other teams gonna get him out? Like, what are we doing? I was just like, I don't know.
That's funny.
Speaking of hitting 350, how does your dad not have a professional hitting coach job right now? Or how is he not head coach in the SEC and teaching hitters? I think back vividly. I vividly remember this in 2007. You and your brother coming into the SEC tournament, both hitting like 351. Unbelievable. Batting 1 and 2. I remember it. It's, the dynamic duo. But tell us, like, how special that was to have to be around and play a season with Jordo and another Henry, surprise, who I think the world of. But talk through like how special that was to have little bro on the team, and then obviously crazy successful there.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was it's probably the most memorable year for us, or at least for me and for my parents. I mean, to so much of when I went to school, I played 1 year with him in high school. He was a freshman, and he was a little guy then, and really hadn't hit his growth spurt yet, and didn't really know how good of a player he was going to be. And once you're playing in college and then going to summer ball, like, I never saw him play. I never was able to really know how good he was. And, when he was finally being recruited, and Coach Mack would tell me about him, and that he liked him and stuff. And, I thought that was great. And it was awesome he got there. And then when I finally got to see him play, it was like, wow, he's going to be able to help us out here. And, but never thought he would come in and do what he did that first year, and, but to end up, him hitting first, me hitting second, and, it was awesome. I mean, it was stuff you kind of dream up if you have a brother that can play. And, it was a really fun year, and obviously it helped having another successful year and winning a regional and doing all those things we got to do. Pretty special.
That's cool.
Ole Miss baseball player, pitcher, you've got one game that you need to win, and he's not coming off short rest or anything like that. You got one game you got to win. Who's your starting pitcher for that game?
So I saw the question you sent, and I started thinking about it, and I played with so many good ones, man. And one game I had to win. I started, obviously Lance was there when I was, and he was awesome, and Will Klein as he got going. But I'm going to go with Stephen Head. As a fellow scout, I got to throw out too. He was a pretty special guy whenever he was on the mound there. Not near the stuff those other two guys had, but just a guy who found a way. It seemed like every time, got the big hit when we needed it, and threw the 7-inning shutouts when you needed it on the mound. So I'm going to go with Stephen Head on the mound. That's my guy.
So continuing on with that, what is the like a teammate that sticks out in your head, or a teammate memory that sticks out in your head? We've had some really good ones of specifics of some things that people didn't know, some things that I think are really really cool and unique. And I think we've learned a lot about just relationships being built between people. But what's a teammate or a teammate memory that sticks out to you?
So I mean, one that I'll get past that Wade already brought up would probably be playing with my brother. Is probably the first one for me. But I would say, our class there of guys, Alex Presley was probably one of my better friends and teammates on that team when I was there.
Peace pipe.
Yeah, that's right. And seeing, I think seeing guys kind of battle through adversity and get through things well, and come out on the better, two other guys were like Alex Kleeman and Peyton Farr, guys who came in there and maybe didn't, redshirted with me. Both those guys didn't maybe play a ton early on. And then like by the end of their careers, they were like really beneficial pieces to our success there. And, like just seeing guys, you see so much now of guys that that maybe leave a program early, after their freshman year. I mean, most guys don't, most places there's not a lot of red shirts now. And Wade, you were a red shirt, right, Wade? I mean, and Wade was a guy who probably, should have pitched more when he was there. You look back and his times he got in there was really good, but never did get maybe a huge opportunity. But
people got to stop telling him that, because it's going to his head. He's thinking, he's thinking about like maybe making a comeback. He's been like Dennis,
you need
Dennis
a
Quaid.
knuckleballer. You need a knuckleballer.
If you start throwing, I know a scout that'll come check you out. If you still have the curveball. Wade was the curveball guy.
No doubt. No doubt. Like riding a bike, man.
That's right. But just seeing guys that battled through the adversity and ended up being successful big pieces for the team, that are good friends, and how how much they worked, and those are the cool ones to me.
Talk through one of the things, and this isn't meant to be like sad or whatever, but like talk through at one point, and we've asked everybody this, at some point in your career, some people it's middle school, some people it's high school, some people are fortunate enough to go to college, and then some people are really crazy lucky to get drafted. But at some point in your career, the day's going to come where either A, you say, I'm done, or B, someone else tells you you're done. Do you remember the day that you decided or were told that, hey, we need to look at other things?
Yeah. So first, I was one of those guys who was pretty lucky, honestly. I was able to have a 8-year minor league career, played, finished 5 years in AAA, never got to the big leagues, which, is a tough one. But I was there. I was pretty close for a long time, played two winters of winter ball in Venezuela. Like, I got to do a lot of cool things in the game. And, I kind of told, my wife, we had 2 kids. I was turning 30, and it was kind of like, as once you get to 30, if I've never been up there before, it's pretty difficult to get there once you kind of get to that age. And so my last year I was playing AAA with the Red Sox, and it was just kind of one of those deals where you felt like you knew it was time to probably take that next step to whatever it may be. And I was fortunate where I never had somebody necessarily tell me it was over. I got to make the decision myself, which not many people get to. But it was kind of time to move on to something else. And I ended up staying in the game anyway. I coached for 1 year after that in the minor leagues with the Red Sox before getting into scouting. But it was it's a tough thing to know you're there, but after kind of that last year of playing every day, you kind of started seeing signs and realized that it was probably time to move on.
So once you got into baseball, and walk us through kind of like to date, right? So you get into scouting, you coach for the year, and then you get into scouting. Just kind of, obviously I talked about before you came on, I was at your wedding, so I know you got married, I know you got kids. So walk us through kind of that journey, and then just where you are right now, and then we can kind of start closing it up.
Yeah. So I dated my now wife since high school. So we got married right after, in 2007, after the winter after I was drafted. And I played 8 years minor league ball, 6 with the Tigers and 2 with the Red Sox. And when I finished up, I thought I wanted to be out of the game, honestly, when I first finished up, and that lasted one whole off season, and I was right back at it the next spring, coaching with the Red Sox in A-ball. And then the opportunity to scout came up, and it was a chance to be back in the area, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama. Scouting provides you a little bit more versatility of getting to live at home, whereas the coaching was kind of right along with playing, where you're moving off each year to go to a different location, whatever town you're playing in or coaching in that year. So with a family, I was kind of more interested in being able to at least have a place to call home and not moving around as much. And so I gave scouting a try. It was the team that had drafted me, so I knew some people within the organization that were still there from the time when I had started there, and it was a good fit for me. I was 3 years in area scout. Now I'm on my 3rd year as a regional supervisor, and we now have 3 daughters. So I have 3 girls at home, 10, 7, and 2. So they keep us extremely busy. And starting to dance recitals and that whole deal that I don't know anything about, but it's going well, and still live in Vicksburg, which I never thought I would, but it's been a good thing. So I'm blessed to still be in the game and doing what I enjoy doing.
I'm married to Vicksburg girls. Not so bad.
That's right. Yeah.
So Justin, give us the kind of on the closing thoughts. One of the questions that we've asked, and I think we've had some interesting answers, but what's something you take away from your time at Ole Miss, like a life lesson, whether it be a Coach B thing or a whatever it is? What's the takeaway for you that you still kind of either use today or look back to, or whatever it may be?
I think my biggest thing is, that Coach Bianco, he was the same person all the time. He was extremely consistent daily. You knew what you were getting, right? You can see it in his career, the success he's had. I mean, I can't imagine there's a more consistent coach, record-wise, whatever, in the country than he is. And as a starting out on the field, I mean, that's the number one thing you want from a player, right? Is consistency of, a lot of guys can be good 1 or 2 times, but who can be the guy that's there daily? And I try to break that into my daily life as a scout now, as a husband, as a father, to try to be that same person every single day, to be consistent. And because people like to know what they're getting from you. And, if you can be a reliable person and, an accountable person in your job and in your marriage as a dad, like that's the ultimate goal. And I think that, the consistency of how we worked there, of knowing what you're going to get every single day, it really taught me the importance of that and the difficulty it is being that person, at all times, but striving to try to be that person.
Love it, man. I love it. I enjoyed it.
This is fun, man. We've really enjoyed this, and getting to know people, players, and just on a different level, and getting to talk through it and reminisce and all that's been really fun. I don't know if you caught the Babineau one, but I figured that would be one you'd be a big fan of, just because Charlie was a team favorite. But yeah, tell your parents hello. I still see them occasionally, like randomly. The last time I was in Vicksburg, I saw your dad, and I saw your mom. Sorry, and as soon as I saw her, I was like, "That's Justin Henry's mom." Just her look is the same, and she's so. You talk about consistency. I was like, from across like the parking lot, I was like, "That's Justin Henry's mom." She's like,
well, I'm glad my mom would probably know who you are, and my dad, he wouldn't know who anyone is.
Right, that's right.
But no, I appreciate what you guys are doing. It's been fun to listen in, we don't stay in touch with everybody. So kind of catching up ourselves on what some of the former teammates are doing. And, I've enjoyed listening. I'm excited to see who you guys have on in the future.
Awesome. Thank you, buddy.
Awesome.
We enjoyed
Absolutely.
it.
All right.
Dude. We'll see you
Good
next
talking
Catch
time,
you soon.
man. See you
Okay.
soon. Later.